Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday as Bill sees it meeting. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Thierry from New York, who's come to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for general sharing or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you so much, Thierry. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sammy. I appreciate the intro. My name is Terry. I'm an alcoholic. It's an honor and privilege to be here. It's good to be back, Young. Thank you for inviting me back here again. I appreciate the Sheffield Gold jacket. It says three-timer on it. This is my third time speaking here, so thank you. I appreciate that jacket. I'll wear it later on today. Am I being dishonest today? Maybe. Maybe. Bill was a little dishonest. He stretched the truth a little bit to make a point. Just kidding. But it's good to be here. So it's good to see so many people, man. Stan, what's up, Stan? Mike, what's up, Mike? Mike, you got pants on, Mike? No, that's my boy. That's my boy. Andrew, Tina, who else? Val, what's up, Val? How you doing, girl? It's good to see you too, man. Oh God, it is good. Paul, what's up, Paul? It's good to see so many people. John C. I appreciate the support, man. You know, it really is good to be back here. Thank you. Um, and to be invited back to anywhere. Um, my home group is Bailey's. Bailey's is an in-person home group in Yonkers, New York. One of my home group members, little rapscallion, spoke last week here, Tony Z. When you hang out with Tony for a long time, you start to say the word right a lot. After every sentence, I start saying right, right. Uh, He's an amazing person. He's one of the handful of people, Mike, who saw me when I was outright mental defective right before I got sober. Yeah, so if you guys want to know how really crazy I was, just give Tony a call. He'll, he'll, he'll tell you about the transformation. Um, what else do I got? Oh yeah, I have a sobriety date. Sobriety date's June 1st, 2019, and a miracle happened on that day. And the best way I could describe that miracle is that the gift of desperation screamed louder than the craving that was beyond my mental control. I didn't quit drinking. I was separated from drinking. And I remember that moment being in my car, being separated. It was like being, I I can't really explain it. It screamed. It was like a little child's voice. It was a whisper too. How can I tell the difference between my voice and that narrative and that story that's in my head versus God's voice, that intuitive sense? Our more religious members call it God consciousness. It's it's a more of a whisper compared to my thoughts. And it screamed and it said, "You're done." I had a flask in my hand and I put it down and I haven't drank since. I hadn't quit drinking. I was separated from drinking. I sponsor other guys too. And, I have a sponsor, who I fired at one point. I didn't let him know I fired him. You know why? Because I went on a quest for knowledge, Dan. I went on a quest to sound really good in AA meetings. I wanted to become famous and anonymous, bro. Right? I wanted to sound like Mark Houston, right? Mike L. Mike L gave me a tape. I think, what was this, 4 years ago, Mike? That was 4 years ago, right? Yeah. Gave me a tape. It's like, this guy, Mark Houston, you gotta listen to him. Gotta listen to him. Gotta listen to him. I'm like, all right, bro, send it on over. Send it on over. And I didn't listen to it. I got, you know, I got what is called ADD, everyone, alcoholic defiance disorder, right? It's getting better. It's getting better. A lot of spiritual medicine I have to take in order to reduce it. Uh, and this random, Mike, it was random. I just popped it into a tape or whatever. I'm trying to say tape, but you sent me an audio through YouTube. And I put it on YouTube, and I'm like, I was blown away, man. Blown away. Like, and I found a sponsor who was sponsored by Mark Houston, and he took me through the work the way Mark and Joe Hawk did, and I had a revelatory experience. And this reading I picked earlier was talking about being an infant and being a child and needing protective parents. And it felt like that in a very early recovery as well. And, when what happens is when we get sober, we're like babies, you know, we're like little thumb sucking, crying babies. And that's what I was. I was a thumb sucking, crying baby. I wanted to sound cool, look cool. I wanted love and applause and moments of sublime. I wanted people to adore me and blah, blah, blah. And I took on this course of action, going through the work through a way different way. It changed my life completely. But it also resurrected a different stage character that was in my head called Mr. Spiritual Man. I didn't understand that at all. I didn't understand that there's a voice and a minion in my head that sounds just like me, but sounds really good. And I you know what I would do, Mike? I would actually write down all the cool things I would hear, like right here. I'd have like a piece of paper right here. I would actually put my phone or my thing up a little bit higher so that you wouldn't see it. And I'd do this amazing talk based on the notes that I took from someone else. Right? I plagiarize. I'm a plagiarizer. And I wanted to sound cool and look cool because my ego got really spiritual really fast. And it was a growing up experience for me. I remember I was in St. Louis. I spoke at a conference with Bill H. and Valdez. If you guys know them, go on YouTube, check them out. They're amazing. And Mike, I walk up there and I crushed it, man. Crushed that talk, bro. I crushed it. There were people lined up to give me hugs, man. To give me young, like straight up. It was crazy. I was like, come here, give me a hug. I appreciate that. I love you. Blah, blah, blah. You're amazing. You changed my life, Terry. I was eating it up, eating it up. And then afterwards, my wife and my son flew down with me. And my wife and my son were in the room, and I went to go to the hotel room. And this couple stops and they stopped me and they were like, hey, the guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, Terry, I just want to tell you that was amazing. Like that was awesome. And I was like, dude, come on in here, man. You're the man. I appreciate that. And then the wife comes over. She's like, Terry, I really appreciated your sermon out there. I was like, well, sermon? What are you talking about sermon? I mean, I was on cloud nine and now I'm extremely disturbed. And I'm like, sermon? Oh my God, did I talk too much about God? Oh my God, what are people thinking about me? Oh my God, I was so upset. I was so offended. It was because I was offendable and it was because I was disturbable, right? There was something wrong with my belief system. I was acting childish in recovery, right? What I did was I took on this face that I wanted to be a convention speaker, right? And I wanted people to stand up and give me love and applause, a standing ovation, especially Bill Swan. Bill Swan. Oh, sorry, Bill. I said your last name. Bill S. I wanted a standing ovation from Bill S. And if Bill S. didn't give me a standing ovation, I'm going to be hurt, threatened, and interfered with. I was acting like a little child, a little baby, a little thumb-sucking, crying baby. I went into my room and I remember looking at myself in the mirror, right? And my wife, I didn't even say hi to my wife when I walked into the room. I just went right to the bathroom because I was that disturbed. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, whoa, what is going on? And I knew I had a gnosis. That's the cool thing about having this relationship with power and being teachable and having a good old fashioned well, what, but I don't want to say the A word. Well, what, but is that God showed me that I was being driven sober. You know, I wasn't even making choices. I was being driven. And he showed me where I was playing God in recovery when I was acting like a child and needing protective parents. I don't remember actually picking this reading. I remember I picked it after my dad died. He died 5 weeks ago. And I was over dependent on my father for a long time. He was one of the persons who loved me from afar with money. And I grew up that way, where daddy was always good because he had money coming in. He was my safety net. I made amends to my dad when I first got back from Minnesota. And we talk about fear in our book, and fear is a major indicator of our mental anxiety that's going on in our head. Uh, if it's so self-consumed, it could be what is called brainstorm. The big book calls it brainstorm. I thought brainstorm was sitting around in a circle talking about and sharing our ideas. Right there. You ever get a 1930s definition of a bit or 1930s dictionary of brainstorm? Check it out. It means literally your brain's on fire. Right? Um, I don't know where I was going with that. All right, whatever. Back to dad. And so I made amends to my dad, and one of the things that I had an attachment was with money. It's two bugaboos that happen in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new, welcome. There's two major players that are that could take you out. One of them's money, and the other one's sex. Right? Here's my recommendation for both. I'm not the arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. I don't tell them what to do. I'm not the judge of it. But I've seen it take a lot of people out in Alcoholics Anonymous because we have these unhealthy dependencies on other things that are outside of ourselves. We act childish in the beginning of recovery. We're yearning for protection from something. We're yearning for comfort, right? And here's my recommendation to you. This is what I got from one of my sponsors or one of my mentors or one of my teachers, whatever you want to call them. He said, Terry, go do whatever you want to do. Go out there. Don't have sex with everything and everyone or blah, blah, blah. Just be accountable and be responsible for the actions because you need to learn it. It's an experience you must learn from. I don't know what I don't know until I know it. Or you could put a pause on it. Put a pause on the stuff while you build this relationship with God, while you build this relationship with power. I remember making amends to my dad, and the first thing I did was I was going to give him back his credit card that he gave me. I remember sitting in the car shaking, giving him back the card. I'm like, no, I don't want to lose you. This overdependence upon something that is made out of plastic. Think about that. Like, I remember I had such issues with money for such a long time. It took me such a long time to outgrow this major handicap. I had a six-step experience with money, and I remember I was sitting right here actually, and I had a piece of paper right next to all my cool notes on what to say. And, and I was writing it down, and this was called two-way prayer. If you don't know what two-way prayer is, I highly recommend checking it out. And you ask God a question, you meditated, you have a God thought come in, and I wrote it down, and it said, "Money's just paper, you could rip it." It's like, whoa, I could rip it? That's so true. I could physically rip it. What am I going to be doing on my deathbed? Am I going to be thinking about how much money is in my bank account? Am I going to be thinking about all the diplomas and degrees that are on my wall? No. I'm going to be thinking about the relationships in my life. Like the relationships I build with Mike L, knowing that he doesn't like to wear pants when he goes to meetings. It's a relationship I'm going to remember, Mike. I'm going to remember that, like Stan. Stan he is a power puncher, man. He, boom, boom. You ever listen to Stan? Just go on YouTube. I don't know if you're on YouTuber, but go on, grab a Stan S talk. And this guy man, he is all power there, you know? And you go Young L, Young L is one of my favorite speakers in the entire world. He's like my twin in the UK. We got the same mom, different dads. Just kidding. Texas T, yo, what's up, T? Hey, like I'm going to be thinking about the relationships in my life, right? I'm going to be thinking about all the moments that God helped me grow up too. I used to take people through the steps very quickly. And I still do. It depends. I actually meet them where they're at. When I was in Toronto and spoke at a conference up there at another fellowship, and I was talking about Ain't It Grand, the Wind Stopped Blowing. And this guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey Terry, I got 1 year sober. I'm in the big book. I'm on step one, and I want to kill myself." That's what he said to me. And I remember first thing that came into my, I didn't even think, Stan, I didn't even think. I was like, "Oh, let me grab 1 second. Let me grab my big book." No, I didn't have time for that. I didn't have time for that. I said, "Yo, when you're drinking, can you control the amount you take?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "All right, when you're sober, can you stay sober?" He's like, "No." Well, I'm like, "Well, congratulations, buddy. You just completed step one. Pew, 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 pew." I'm like, "What? Are you even willing to believe there's a power greater than yourself?" He's like, I believe, I believe." I'm like, "All right, well, congratulations. You just completed step two. Pew, 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 pew." And then we did the third step prayer. And after that, I said, yo, your third step prayer don't mean jack. Doesn't mean anything unless you put legs on it and you put pen to paper and you make a commitment to that decision. You do steps 4 through 9. And I branched off from this guy and I had, I was just talking. I was talking to a bunch of people. They were playing pool. There were about 300 people still inside after I'd spoken. And I went back inside to use the bathroom. It was about like 30, 45 minutes then. And I'm walking to the bathroom and I don't know like how my eyes caught him, but my eyes caught him at a table, the same guy, writing inventory. And I'm like, "Oh man, look at that." Like, holy smokes. I run over to him. He's like, "I just finished my list." I was like, "Oh, awesome, man. Let me give you instructions for columns 2 and 3." He gave me instructions for column 2 and 3. Boom. Knocks it out a half hour later. I said, "Hey, let's meet up tomorrow, blah, blah." We go over column 4. We go over the fear inventory. We go over the sex conduct, right? Later on that day, we met that morning. We met in the afternoon. I missed the banquet. I missed the dinner. And I listened to a fifth step for 3.5 hours with a sponsee of mine. So it was 2 against 1. And I'm watching this guy have a revelatory experience in front of me. I'm watching this guy wake up. Sometimes I say all the time, I guess my job today is to wake up the dead. And, you know, in that moment, I didn't have time to get my big book, everybody. This little baby right here. I met them where they were at, and I went from there. That was also a process of growing up as well. I mean, I used to smack people. I wanted to smack people up with the big book. Michael, I wanted to break traditions all the time. Mike's my tradition guy. And you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to stand outside liquor stores and smack people up with big books. And then I had a buddy of mine in sober living. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, Terry, this is a program of attraction rather than promotion. Let me tell you a little something about this little book called AA Comes of Age, and talk about all about the mistakes that we've done in our fellowship and why we need the traditions to keep us unified, that you're a small part of a great whole." Oh my God, Mike, this is a tradition talk, Mike. Uh-oh. Just kidding, man. The traditions helped me grow up. They helped me become a small part of a great whole. And they taught me how to live a life of humility, right? We're babies. Think about this. Like when I just came in, like, I'm someone who's taken people through the book so fast that I used to wake them up and say bye bye. I'm on to the next one, and that was a mistake. And I grew up from that mistake. Right? I learned from that mistake. Mistakes are just invitations to lessons learned. Sammy, you can write that down. It's an invitation to a lesson learned. My life is just, I was listening to Arissa B. She says we make 500 to 600 mistakes a day just in our thinking. We have flawed thinking, you know? That's why we align it. We align the will, align the thinking, align the 10 step, 10 step. back home, back home, back to harmony. We're just going back to harmony, everybody. It's like me, I wake up my son and he's taking a nap, right? Just like I do with a sponsee. I help them. I'm not the power. I connect them to the power. I help them wake up, right? I'm part of that journey with them. And it's like I wake up my son, he's in the crib and from a nap, and I say bye-bye, and I just leave him in the crib. I mean, how cruel is that? It's my job to walk hand in hand and shoulder to shoulder with this individual. My sponsor needed to show me how to wipe my nose, and maybe he needed to help me wipe my butt. He needed to help me walk. I mean, think about anyone, parents here? Who's a parent? Anyone a parent? I'm a parent, right? Look at it. When you look at a child, they look up at you. They don't know what to do, right? They need help. They need guidance. My thing was I was just so overprotective and I was over dependent upon people. I had open heart surgery due to drinking and using the white witch. Thank you, Mike. I didn't break the traditions, pal. And you guys could put two and two together with that. And I was told never to drink ever again or it would kill me. Straight up. But there I was, all lit up again. Right. I stayed sober because of fear. You guys could write this down. Fear is an unreliable higher power. It's a false god. Success is also an unreliable higher power. People are also an unreliable higher power. I guess it said fallible in the reading, right? Money is also an unreliable higher power. It could be reliable sometimes, but when you need it the most, and it can show up. Like your sponsor is also an unreliable higher power. Like my relationship with my sponsor it's a two-way street, like, and my sponsees too. I mean, they become my sponsor. Thank God we're all not crazy on the same day, right? I mean, I, I could become cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs certain days. And I talk to one of my sponsees or what's going on, or do a 10-step or whatever you want to call it. And they become my sponsor. It won't help us in that strange mental blank spots, those stuff. It won't help us what he called it the insanity before the first drink. He called it time out of mind, right? It won't help us in those strange blank spots, all those things that what I'm talking about, this over dependence upon unhealthy dependencies, right? Unhealthy issues, unhealthy things. And I remember I was cleaning up my trunk and I find a flask and it didn't even occur to me. The pain and humiliation and the suffering would happen a week or a month or whatever X amount of time ago that I had that surgery. It didn't even occur to me. It was like a singular thought. And it was an irrational thought that crowded out all other thoughts. Even in sobriety, I've had unreliable higher powers, sponsor being one of them, money being another. Today, it's odd because I talked a little earlier about my dad and making that amends with my dad with the credit card. It was a journey to be released from the bondage of needing money in order to live. It was a journey. It was a process too. I mean, it was a lot of repeated humiliation, you could say. A lot of painful moments that happened in my life that had nothing to do with actual reality. I was suffering from what wasn't even happening. I was just sitting there going nuts, suffering about something you could actually rip. As of today, I don't have issues. I don't even think about money in a way that I used to because it isn't important to me. I'm on a new basis, right, Young? Basis is an underlying support or foundation. 1930s definition. How do I know that? Because I wanted to sound cool one day. That sounds pretty cool though, right? Underlying support or foundation. I'm on a new basis, a basis of trusting and relying upon God. See, I came to believe. Now I come to trust this power. Now I've come to rely on this power. You're looking at a miraculous demonstration of the power of God in one's life. You're looking at a walking miracle. You guys ever hear that? Was it Stan knows this? Where you at, Stan? I lost you. It says resentments. What does it know? Expectations of premeditated resentments. You guys ever hear that? It's got a ton of validity to it, especially in the third column, especially when you write extended third column inventory. You don't know what extended third column inventory? I'll put my number in the chat. Hit me up. I'll be more than glad to show you. All right. Expectations are premeditated resentments. Extremely true. But it's not really consistent with our big book. Our big book says to expect miracles. You do the work. God will work on you and miracles will happen to you. You're looking at someone who shouldn't be alive. You're looking at someone who should be dead. You're looking at someone there's people that depend on me today. I have a 3-year-old kid. He's level 3 autism. He depends on me. I have a wife. She depends on me. She told me, she's like, I don't know what I'd do without you. That took a long time, by the way, for her to say that. She was extremely hesitant when I came back. I was like that dude who came out of the cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. And I said, I don't see anything the matter here, Ma. 80 grand, the wind stopped blowing, right? Like, look at me. I'm sober. I got 6 months. Trust me. Love me. Adore me. Yeah, that didn't really happen the way that I wanted it to happen. It was a process for my loved ones to trust me and love and to depend on me. Things I must earn. Time. Time. I thank God for God. I mean, he changed my life. He helped me be someone. He has a successful recycling business. Young, remember, I used to say this all the time. Sammy, you could write this down too. This actually I came up with. I didn't steal this. 99.9% of the things I say today, I stole from someone else. Actually, I didn't steal this. This just came out of nowhere. God has a successful recycling business. He takes trash, he turns it into treasure. He literally took me, a piece of trash, a tornado roaring through the lives of others, a victim of delusions and illusions, an unlovely creature, and he transformed me. He literally transformed me. He transformed me into a father who's only missed 3 nights of my son's life. I've been with my son every single day. And when I'm not with him, I go nuts. I go cuckoo. I miss him. He transformed me into a father, into a husband who actually is loyal, who supports his family, into someone who could be there, who's present. I was never present. That's the thing with fear. It's like I like to live in the future. In our book, it talks about fear. That what it really is, it's mental anxiety. Fear is like the highest form of human intelligence someone could have. Think about it. A truck's coming at you, you're driving, you jump out the way. That's fear. The book is talking about mental anxiety, a story, a narrative in your head. My wife said, she told me the other day that, actually not the other day, she said this many times for a long time. Young, she said, I'm a terrible listener, Young. She said, I'm a terrible, and I completely disagree with her. Completely disagree with her. I don't actually listen to what she says. So she's right on that. I like to listen to the thoughts and the stories that are in my head. Our 10 step says we continue to watch for the manifestations of self. One of them being fear. I'm supposed to watch for my fears all throughout the day. Sammy, it doesn't say we continue to listen. to our fears. I'm a great listener to the minion that's in my head, those fears, the talker, the liar, the thinker. Mr. AA's convention speaker, he talks a lot. He talks about something that's not even happening. And I got to the point in recovery that all the steps get me to do is to live right here, right now. Brenda J is coming up at the end of the month. She's one of my favorite speakers. Met her in person. She's absolutely wonderful. She says, I'm going to meet you at the crossroads of right here, right now. Living a moment-to-moment life. I've been placed. It's like weird. It's like I've been placed into a new position of neutrality, safe and protected. I don't have this overdependence. I don't have underdependence. I'm living in the neutrality, the land of milk and honey, the fourth dimension, right here, right now. And it's wild. It's like I've been living in this moment-to-moment basis. There is no fear there. There's courage there. There's hope there. There's faith there. There's forgiveness there. There's acceptance there. I used to love acceptance was the answer, you know. Answer all my problems today. Not really congruent with our big book, but wonderful thing to say. But why don't someday, next moment, I'll see, my friend Donna J would say, I'd like to see you in the next now. I'll see you in the next now. Why don't that moment be that forgiveness is the answer to all my problems today? Why don't the next moment be acceptance is the answer to all my problems today? Why don't for the next moment I want to say God is the answer to all my problems today? Why don't I say hope or joy is the answer to all my problems today? Living this moment-to-moment life and living in a unionship with God has changed me. It actually became maybe a lot more calmer person. You should have saw me in the beginning of recovery, young. I was like, squirrel, 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 squirrel. I was a talker, man. Now I'm trying to retire from speaking. And you hit me up. Hey, we'll speak at Sheffield. You get that cool 3-time jacket, that gold Sheffield jacket. Damn, man. All right, I'll come out of retirement for that jacket, bro. Just kidding. It's an honor to be here. I love you, Young, and I love everything that you do. You help so many people. I mean, how many people we got? 88 people, Jesus. You guys get me nervous. Remember the last time I spoke in front of 80 people? It was in New York City in an in-person meeting talking about fears. I'm listening to the story in my head. I am so consumed with myself, thinking about me and what other people are going to think about me before I even talk. And I'm sitting in this chair, trembling in mental anxiety, fear, relying on myself. And I look over my friend and I'm like, hey, she's someone who's armed with the facts about herself. She's amazing. And I asked her, I was like, I got so much anxiety and fear about speaking. I don't know what I should. I was like sweaty, you know, hands are sweaty, palms are sweaty. What's that? That's that song. All right, that Eminem song. And I'm looking, I'm like, hey, I got fear about speaking. She's like, why? Why are you scared? Everybody's just thinking about themselves right now. But that's what I was doing. I was thinking about myself. Anyone judge the speaker? Yeah, I have. And it's just I'm an agnostically inclined individual. This old basis of living where I relied on myself and my thoughts and my old experiences, my old associations, my old feelings, my old ideas, my old belief systems get totally different and transformed into a new basis, a basis of trusting and relying upon God. And I'll grab my book. Where's it at? And I'm going to butcher this. Perhaps from a we think so. For we are now. Keyword now. Right now is the time frame, everybody. Right here or right now. I highly recommend if go through the big book and look at the words now. Not about learning, everyone. It's about becoming this. And then when you become this way of life, you start to be this way of life. I start to be a demonstration of the words that are in chapter 5, how it works. I am now on a different basis, a basis of trusting, relying upon upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. Now, I've talked about trusting finite gods for a long time. I didn't believe in infinite God. Screw you. I wanted to Google God. What is God? Google it. Show me the facts, right? But God can't be explained. He can only be experienced, right? It's like, what does a rose smell like? Smells like a rose, right? What does opening a book feel like? Well, can't really explain it, but it feels like opening a book. Can't explain it. You can only experience it. What does a banana taste like? Right? You get my drift, right? But thank God I had these over dependencies on finite gods because they taught me that these things were unreliable higher powers. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. Try practicing that all throughout the day. We are we are in the world to play the role God assigns to the extent we would do as we would think God would have us. We humbly rely on God. Does God enable us to match calamity with serenity? I got 5 minutes, and I'll shut up after this. I want to talk about more recent stuff, and you can't spiritual experience. Sammy, write this down. Spiritual experience has an expiration date. Spiritual experience has an expiration date. I can't stay sober off the spiritual experience I had 5 years ago. It's like I can't stay clean off the shower I took yesterday. I'm gonna get pretty dirty, you know. Can't stay full off the ham sandwich I had yesterday. I gotta continue. I have to give nourishment to the soul, nourishment to the soul on a daily basis, because that's what it says on the 10th step. What we really have, key word and key emphasis on the word really. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent upon the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Right? And I've been dealing with, there's some defects of character. They're all symptoms of self, manifestations of self, whatever. And one of them is sloth, right? And I get a call from my dad, and my dad invited me over to his house, and I was like, yeah, of course we'll go over there. And then the week went by, and Sunday was approaching, and I didn't get my nap time in. I like my nap time, Stan. Yeah. I was really big on, nap time in the first year of recovery was clutch, clutch. Problem is, you continue doing it into years of sobriety. It might be objectionable, especially when you're almost 40 years old. But that Saturday, I didn't get my nap time. I didn't get my nappy time. I didn't get my nappy time. There it goes, a little thumb crying, sucking baby comes out of me. And I was hoping and praying my dad would cancel. I was coming up with ways on how to cancel, how to postpone our visit with my dad. And my dad calls me, said, hey, his wife was sick. He's like, oh, my wife is sick, we could postpone. I'm like, yes, yes. Got my nap in. Next week, following week, we're supposed to meet again. Yet again, I didn't get my nappy time. My thoughts, mistakes, right? Hard thinking. Need naps in order to be okay. I knew a sloth was objectionable. I knew it was unwanted. I wasn't willing to let it go. I wasn't even praying to let it go. He calls me again. Says, oh, she's still sick. Can we do next week? I'm like, yes, no problem, Dad. But you know what, Terry, can I come see you? I'll just come. I was like, oh, no, don't worry about it. We'll just see each other next week. All right. Next day, he died. He passed away unexpectedly. He had a heart attack. I got a call from my job. I went straight to see him. I saw my dad on the floor, and I held his hand. And I told him I loved him. I kissed him on his head. I said my goodbye. I miss my dad today. That's why I chose when Young asked me, what do you want to pick? I picked something about acting like a little foolish child. And that was the reading I picked. That's why Bill asked me. I forgot what I picked, actually. So, but I saw that sloth was objectionable. And I got on my knees and I asked God, please take it away from me. It it ruined. I had a lot of guilt. I was like, I couldn't see my dad anymore. I did this, I did that. My mind was going nuts. And I had a step six moment where I was like, hey, God, please take it away from me. And he didn't. I was like, damn it, God, what's up, man? You're not going to do this? I'm willing. I'm willing to let go. Willing to let go, absolutely. Come on. And then he said, make amends. And then, of course, I thought about making amends for 2 days. ADD, defiance disorder. God damn, I just thought about that. It took me 2 days to write a letter. That took me 2 minutes to write. It took me 45 minutes to knock out my 4-step, right? If you're new here, it could take, if your butt is on fire, you do the work. I wrote out this letter. I explained to my dad exactly how I was wrong, what I just explained to you. And I asked my dad, how can I make this right? And he said, be you. I've never cried so much in my entire life. There wasn't this joy. I'm sorry, there weren't cries of pain and turmoil. There were tears of joy. I can't explain it. He said, be you. And I was asked at a podcast about a following week. I'll shut up right after this. I know I got 10 seconds. They asked me, where do if you're at the pearly gates, Terry, I'll shut up right after this, yo. If you're at the pearly gates, what do you want your God to tell you? And I was like, whoa, what kind of question is that? I need a month to study this question, right, young? But the first thing I thought about was my dad. And I was like, is he 20 years old in heaven right now? Like, or is he a baby? Is he a little 4-year-old in heaven? Like, is he just living the dream up there? But that's my job duty. My job description is to be a child of God. We're all children of a living creator, and the main function of a child is to play. My job is to play on God's playground and act like I'm a child of God and be useful to all God's children. And I told that gentleman that I would like God to say, welcome home, my son. Welcome home, my child. My name is Terry. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I'm looking forward to your shares. That's all I got. Pew, 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 pew.